Hello everyone and welcome to Crosshairs, GameSpot AU's weekly TV show. My name is Randolph Ramsey. With me as always is Laura Parker and Mr. Dan Capini. G'day guys, how are you?
What lovely hair you have, Randolph.
What? Oh yeah, this? Just gearing up for Mardi Gras.
Just a little something you knocked up. It's like Tina Turner fell in a blender with John Bon Jovi.
Okay. And that's good, yeah?
Oh yeah, it's so hot right now.
Because you guys wouldn't lie to me about bad hairstyles or anything.
You look pro.
Yeah.
Okay.
How long did that take to get done?
Probably a few days.
Yeah.
That's why I haven't been at work.
Yeah.
So it's been a bit of a struggle.
I thought you were sick.
Shut up.
You lied to us.
Alright, what's on this week's show, Mr. Dan?
Massive episode of the show this week. We've got Singularity and the brains behind the project with a developer interview. We've also got hands-on time with Midnight Club Los Angeles South Central and World in Conflict Soviet Assault, which are two very tough ones to remember. We've also got a look at the classification scene in Australia and what's currently holding up R18, news, charts, and much, much more.
Now, you've been watching Crosshairs for the past week. You know we've been doing a lot of Street Fighter stuff. Last week we actually had some pros in the office to teach us a little bit, and Cos took away some tips from there. And we're going to test that Cos this week by doing a special Street Fighter 4 challenge. Dan, what are we doing with
I saw him writing furiously, so what we're going to do is give Cos the chance to even the score.
Yeah, that's right.
We've given him the arcade stick, we've thrown the others away, and we're going to be playing on a Guitar Hero World Tour controller, a Blu-ray remote control, and a drum kit.
Yeah, so stay tuned, see how we go versing Cos and all those peripherals. But in the meantime, we're going to check over with Laura, who's going to tell us all about the news this week.
Yep, so first up, it's classification again, everybody's favourite topic. We've learnt this week that South Australian Attorney General Michael Atkinson is holding back the public consultation, which could potentially decide whether Australia gets the R18 for video games. Atkinson wasn't happy with the draft discussion paper released by the Standing Committee of Attorney Generals in November last year, and he claimed it was biased, so he's thinking of making some changes to it, but 4 months on he actually hasn't made those changes yet. The original release date for the paper was the end of 2008, but Atkinson's office say they cannot give a new date for when it will be released. Moving on from classification, veteran publisher and developer Midway may soon be forced to sell off its most popular franchise in order to save itself from going under. With the company facing bankruptcy and a $240 million debt, an incentive plan has been drawn up to try and retain its top 29 workers. Part of the plan includes selling off the Mortal Kombat franchise, although it's still unclear what Midway would be doing with itself if this was sold off. Onto sales records now. Microsoft has come out with news that the first Xbox 360 exclusive expansion pack for GTA 4, The Lost and Damned, has surpassed first day revenue for all previous downloadable content on Xbox Live. Despite this, they didn't provide any hard sales figures to show just how many units of the $20 expansion pack have actually been downloaded, nor did they say if the expansion pack was the top download domestically or internationally or both. Still on Microsoft, nostalgic gamers who have kept their original Xbox will no longer be able to make use of Microsoft's out-of-warranty support service for the console, with the publisher finally pulling the plug on its repair service 8.5 years after the console's launch. However, any other technical support, documents, and content will continue to be available, as well as an upgrade and support program for original Xbox consoles still under warranty. And finally, it may come as no surprise to learn that the latest Street Fighter film, titled Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li, has only made $4.7 million during its opening weekend in the US. The film came in at number 8 behind such gems as Tyler Perry's Madea Goes to Jail and the Jonas Brothers, the 3D concert experience. It's also worth noting that the 1994 Street Fighter film, a movie declared so bad that only irony and nostalgia justify its existence, managed to make more than this version, reaping in $6.86 million in its first weekend. And on to this week's charts. We see a more eclectic lineup than last week, with Nintendo's domination waning in favour of Street Fighter 4, which has made it into the charts on both consoles and has taken top spot this week. Other featured guests in the charts include Warhammer's Dawn of War 2 on the PC and Fear 2 on the 360. And stay tuned for more news next week on Crosshairs.
Ratings watch time, and this week the following titles have been rated by the Classification Board of Australia. First up, Xbox exclusive space opera role-playing game Star Ocean: The Last Hope, which is being developed by Tri-Ace, has been given a PG rating for mild violence. Though it was released in North America at the end of February, there's no confirmed Aussie release date yet, but as always, stay tuned to GameSpot AU. Movie tie-in action brawler Watchmen: The End Is Nigh has been given the green light to smash its way onto the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3 and PC platforms. Designed as episodic prequels to the film and graphic novel, you'll take control of Rorschach and Night Owl in the first episode, and while the second release hasn't been dated yet, it's also been rated MA15+ for strong violence. Company of Heroes Tales of Valor, the second standalone expansion for Relic's military real-time strategy game, is coming to the PC and has been rated MA15+. This expansion adds brand new campaigns, units, multiplayer modes and maps, and is due out on April 9th. And lastly, Dragon Ball Evolution, the fighting title based on the live-action film of the same name, is heading to the PlayStation Portable. No Aussie release date has been given yet, but it lands in North America in April this year and has been given a PG rating.
Moving on to the preview section of Crosshairs now, we're bringing on Mr. James Kozanecki, as we always do. G'day James, how are you?
Good, how are you, Randy?
Now you have been practicing your Street Fighter, right?
I have, yeah. I've been using the arcade sticks that we imported from the US just for this one.
And you got some pretty mad tips from the Ozadu guys last week, yeah?
I did, yeah. I figured out how to take out Ken, or those pesky Ken players online, even though it actually hasn't worked yet.
Yeah.
But we'll see how we go at the end of the episode.
So what do you reckon your chances are when we take you on with the Guitar Hero controller and drum kit and everything?
I would bet $50 on you. No, probably I'd bet on me, actually.
All right.
I'll take that bet.
Okay, we'll see a bit more of that later on in the episode. But first, we're going to talk about the Midnight Club LA, the expansion pack that's coming out for that. Dan, what is it? What's it all about?
It's the Midnight Club expansion pack. Essentially, it's split into two parts. There's the free version, which expands the city by about a third and adds all the cool South Central parts like Compton. So you can finally take your cars down to Compton. They've also added a premium pack, which is $10 US. I think it'll be about 16 here when it lands on the 12th. And it's adding 9 new cars, 26 new races, about 10 new delivery missions, I think there were. And the city's about a third bigger as well. Okay,
so you talked about the city, how much bigger it is. What does it actually look like, the new South Central areas?
It's a mix. The stuff I saw was, some of it was quite urban. It's very suburban-y with streets and lots of action. I mostly raced during the day in the hands-on time I had. So the streets were quite busy, but there were also parking lots where you could jam in and out with trees, and the rest, it's LA. So a lot of it is just freeway.
Does it introduce any new race modes or challenges to the game?
Not so much. Well, there's 26 new races, which are a mix of the various challenges and 10 new delivery ones. But I think the real key is the space itself and the 9 new cars, which are a mix of the lowriders and the SUVs.
Okay, so you talked about these new vehicles. Do you really need to have them to be competitive? Like, they don't break the game at all, do they, if you decide not to actually grab them?
No, well, the cool thing about this pack is that because it's split into two distinct SKUs, you've got the city expansion, which, as I said, makes it bigger by about a third, and the paid-for content. You'll be able to race against the people who have the DLC online if you don't, but you'll still have a bigger city if you want to race around the cars you already own.
Okay, so this is just an expansion. Does it feel much different to Midnight Club? Have they tweaked anything at all or anything like
No,
that?
from my brief time with it looked exactly the same. It's still got all the day and night cycles, the weather cycling stuff. That's all there. I think the big mix was there's a little bit of off-road now. Previously, it was all street racing, and you'd expect that. But there's occasional paths where it's a little bit Burnout Paradise, where you head off the road and there's a dirt track and you can skip through.
Okay, Dan, tell us again when this is out.
This one's out on March 12th on the PlayStation and Xbox.
Okay, this is round one of our special Street Fighter fights, where James Kozanecki, who hasn't had a really good record so far, but you've been training.
Last time I just discovered that it wasn't mapped properly, so that's why.
Yeah, graphical glitch. Anyway, we have Koz taking on a few comers with different control schemes. Koz is going to be playing on a Hori Real Arcade Pro 3 stick, and for round one, Miss Laura Parker is going to take him on a PlayStation 3 remote control. Who's going to win? Let's find out now.
You ready to lose, Laura?
I'm ready to kick
Laura,
your
loser.
little ass. I'm going to kick your ass.
Alright, this is a family show. Stop swearing.
Okay, and starting off now, Koz, as always, picks Blanca. Laura has picked E-Honda. As you can see, Laura is having a bit of a tough time at the moment using the remote control. The buttons are pretty oddly spaced around that D-pad-like thing. And I know she's mashing as much as she can, but as you can see, Cos is also mashing quite a hell of a lot. Oh, Laura got a few good hits in there, but it looks like Cos is way ahead. This may just be one more hit, and that is it. Game over already. Cos 1, alternative controllers 0. Okay, we've gone expansion pack crazy in this week's Crosshairs because now we're going to move on to yet another one. This time it's World in Conflict Soviet Assault.
Guys, what does this one add?
Well, this one basically, as the name implies, is all about the Soviets assaulting. So
whereabouts do they assault?
well, essentially, World in Conflict, put forward this fictional sort of timeline where the Russians invaded North America, and in the original game, you basically played as the Americans trying to repel the Russians off, American soil. What Soviet Assault essentially does is add the Soviet side of the campaign.
I think I like it at the beginning of the first mission. It's actually called Red Dawn as a level.
Awesome.
That was kind of cool.
And it's in West Berlin as well.
Yeah.
So what basically happens is, some Soviet missions are thrown in there. They've apparently also got some new maps for the multiplayer, and you also get an extra difficulty level as well. So if you're a World in Conflict veteran, you get this new very hard difficulty.
It's called Elite, I believe.
Yeah, in which apparently, the AI will actually be a lot smarter and use a lot of tactical aid and special unit aids, that type of thing.
So does it just add the Russian side?
Yeah, cause
from what I played, they've sort of localized all the units. So instead of having like M1 tanks for the Americans, you've got T-72s and T-80s for the Russian tanks, and that's their heavy tank. They've also introduced a new tactical aid, which is white phosphorus. So it's an artillery piece, so it shoots down and covers the entire area and just burns everything. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah, it's not good for your skin condition or anything like that. But in terms of storyline, on the Soviet side of things, it's still sort of fairly heavily character driven. So you'll be playing on the field this captain called Malashenko. You'll be getting your orders from a colonel named Orlovsky, and Malashenko seems to be like a very sort of like hard-headed, driven sort of by the book Russian captain, and you just basically go through his story as he's trying to get across the United States.
Yeah, well, in similar vein to the first one, it's all sort of backwards and forwards documentation to his family, and then his wife's sending him back letters and that sort of thing, similar to what the original game had.
So how differently do the Soviets play to the US?
Tactically, they play very similar. I mean, you've still got the basic formations that you can have, either the column or the square. The tanks have still got the smoke that they can deploy if they want to have a smoke screen. So it's fairly similar. Anyone who's played the original World in Conflict will be able to jump right into it.
The first few Russian levels that we played were essentially, the first one is awesome, where you basically get to, you have to take West Berlin. So essentially it's the opening salvo in this fictional war, where the Russians are amassing like just on the other side of the Berlin Wall, and basically they blow all that up and just take the city. And it's a really awesome, satisfying start. The second mission that we played, Cause, was basically, you're in America as the Soviets now, and it's like a wide open sort of like cornfield, farmland type thing. And that mission gets a lot tougher.
That was interesting, I thought, because you had to take a bridge, but the bridge gets blown up, so you got to look for other ways to get around. And the Americans have hidden M1 tanks throughout the level, so you got to be careful with those ones, because you only, in the first part at least, you only get light tanks, and the heavy tanks that the Americans have absolutely pummel them. So you really need to sort of be careful for them and gang up on them.
Yeah, the M1 just cuts through those tanks like butter. Yeah. Okay.
So Cozzy, when's this one out?
Soviet Assault is out on the 12th of March.
Hadouken! Round 2, arcade stick versus drumstick.
Already won one, man. Ready to add another one to the belt.
Unless it's on film, man, that can happen.
That's alright, we'll capture it on film.
Looks like Koz is going to stick with Blanca. Randy's gone with his trusty Ryu, and I think he'll stay low to the ground on this one. He'll probably avoid the drum hits to go with the high punches and dragon punches and fireballs. Instead, I think he'll just stick with the low sweep, which looks to be working really well. Koz fighting back, maybe going for a Blanca roll here or trying for the head bite. Randy won't have a bar of it. He's sticking with his low sweep. A little bit of electricity attack there. Some quick tapping. No, and it looks like this one may be over, fellas. There we go. Koz put to bed with a low sweep to the leg.
Moving on to our last preview for this week, and it's another time-bending, crazy, time-shifting thing. that we call, or not we, but the developers have called Singularity. Dan,
We can call it Singularity
We can call it
too.
Singularity too. I mean, it's not like trademarked to them, right? Like other people can call it Singularity.
I'd say it's probably the best way to identify it.
Okay, so Singularity, you actually saw this game while you were overseas recently.
Sure did.
What's the actual premise behind this game, man? Because time mechanics.
Yep,
yeah,
there's some time mechanic in this. Essentially, it's like taking Lost, Half-Life, and Half-Life 2, and Time Shift, and mixing them all together.
Has it got anyone from Party 5 in it then?
I
If it's a bit of
think
Lost?
I think it does. I haven't announced the full roster for the acting yet, but I
Yeah.
imagine it will have at least one person from Party of 5.
And even if it doesn't, you can just go back in time and just like watch Party of 5 within the game. I guess
That's not a bad
That's an
idea.
Easter egg, but anyway, yeah. Okay, so what do you actually do in it? What's its hook? What's its time hook?
Time. Essentially, that is the big one here. You play a dude named Nate. You're in the Air Force, and you're flying over a Russian island. Something goes wrong. You crash land. It's kind of familiar. There's this thing called Element 99, which is actually a real element on the periodic table, but it's kind of like a superpower that the Russians and the Americans are trying to get their hands on. They create a reactor. There's a little bit of kind of Chernobyl feel in there as well. Something goes wrong, it creates this terrible time rift, and you get this thing called the time displacement device.
So is it set in the future though, or is it set in present day?
It's a bit of both. It's set in 2010, but you'll spend a lot of time in the game going back to 1950. So there's kind of the Portal feel to it as well, where you can create rifts in time and move between them, or use this essentially kind of gravity glove thing to age things forwards and backwards.
Is it hard to use the gravity glove?
No, it was all hands-off time with the game when I saw it. But from the looks of it, it's like using the gravity gun in Half-Life 2. You can use it to turn items backwards. So, for example, there's an intense puzzling mechanic. We saw some barrels that were looking a bit kind of crappy, and you can age those backwards into a nice red barrel, which you can then use as an explosive device, or you can stand on top of it and then age it backwards from quite a crumpled can to something higher to jump onto a nearby ledge, or you can age a bridge that's holding a whole bunch of crates and barrels and drop it on top of guys who are hanging out below.
So you didn't actually get hands-on. What did you get to actually see of the game then?
A little bit of shooting, a little bit. It's very much a first-person shooter with a puzzling element as well. So as I said, there's solving a bunch of puzzles with the time mechanic, which you can do in many different ways. And there's also a chrono flashlight, which kind of gives you it's kind of like Left 4 Dead's writing on the wall, but you can only see text from the 1950s when you have the torch enabled.
And if you go back then you have to make out with your mother.
That's right, and you
The
become
flux
your
capacitor
you become
comes
your
in,
own grandfather, and
Okay.
I don't want to spoil the ending.
Now, obviously I haven't played it though, but does it look a bit gimmicky? I mean, we've seen games like Time Shift try and do it before, and it hasn't quite worked out.
Look, I think this has a lot of premise, like a lot of promise as well. The mechanics seem really good. The tech seems really good. It's running on the Unreal Engine. It was looking pretty flash when I saw it. The only problem that I could see was that there's still very much the kind of bane of first-person shooters, which is find key, open door. And there was a point where you can use the time glove to age things forwards and backwards, like locks on doors, for example, but certain items that don't have Element 99 you can't interact with. So like Star Wars Force Unleashed, where you have this really cool DMM and you can do really awesome stuff with the environment, only interact with certain objects. So you'll still need to go off and find kind of a cog thing to put it into a door to open it, where logically you could just time age it forwards or backwards to open it as an unrusted door, or make it all shaky and just kick the thing down.
So like Fracture, where as soon as you hit concrete, suddenly the
game's over,
mechanics
man.
don't work. Is
Yeah,
that
exactly right.
Okay, so when is this game out, man?
This game doesn't have a firm date yet, but it's looking like it's going to be sometime in 2009.
And you also managed to get a chat with one of the developers, yeah?
I certainly did. While I was over in Wisconsin, of all places, I caught up with some of the guys from the team, and here's what they had to say about the project.
Hi, I'm John Zook from Raven Software, and I'm the creative director on Singularity. In Singularity, you play as Nate Ranko, a U.S. Air Force pilot who is shot down over the island of Katorga 12 while doing a recon mission. Very soon after crashing on the island, you come across the time manipulation device, or TMD, and the TMD allows you to age and renew objects in time, and you use the TMD to make your way across the island and, get through scenarios of combat, solving puzzles, exploration, and ultimately your goal is to get off the island. Element 99 is a fictional element. In the real world, it's Einsteinium, and it's a man-made element created during nuclear reaction. So in our fiction, element 99 is a naturally occurring substance that has some unique properties. For instance, when you break it down, much as like if you were trying to break coal down and use it for fuel, they get energy output out of E99. And the Soviets decide that that's fantastic. We're going to get a lot of something for a little bit of input, and we can win the Cold War with this element. Unfortunately, what they don't realize is that element 99 has a slight side effect with time. Something really simple with the TMD is, in terms of a puzzle, is how do I get past this gate? Here's a gate that's locked. I can't find a key. I can't open the gate. So I see a barrel on the other side of that gate. I can bring the barrel over, renew it back in time until it's brand new, and then blow it up, which then blows open the gate. That's a really simple puzzle. Something more complicated would be, I see this object I need to get, there's no way for me to get to it, there's a bunch of heavy cargo on top of some doors, it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to get to it. So I look around, I create a rift in time, and jump back into 1950, move the cargo out of the way, open the doors, come back to the near future and get that object that I was trying to acquire. You're going up against some Russian soldiers headed by somebody. Not something we're discussing right now. There is somebody pulling the strings on the island, however. The 1950s as a time period is great because it's the height of the Cold War. It's after World War II. The world is basically rebuilding, and there's these various races. There's a space race going on. There's an arms race going on. There's nuclear proliferation, and what were people working on that never did see the light of day? In this case, they were working on some sort of super reactor that went bad, and they just covered it up.
Now, it's risky launching new IP at the best of times, but in this economic climate, why are you guys so sure that Singularity is going to get up?
Well, Singularity has, a really unique hook in the TMD, and, the opportunities it provides you. I'm in a combat scenario, and, I could run and gun through it, but I can also use the TMD to provide me lots of opportunities. I can take away cover from enemies, drop things on them, take out multiple enemies by using the environment against them. So I think that's something that's really exciting to play. And the story, even though there's a deep mystery to it, the basic story is something that anybody can get attached to. You're this guy dropped basically behind enemy lines by yourself, and you just want to get out. In single player, yeah, you can use the TMD on enemies just as well as on objects. So if you have an unwitting soldier who happens to pop his head out for a little bit too long, you can age him into a skeleton and dust, and he's gone. You can also revert him back in time, but you don't get what you would expect. You're not going to get an infant or a baby. You get sort of a protoplasmic goo because every cell in his body is being reverted in an instant. An object that opens up a lot of possibilities is the deadlock. It's an object that freezes time inside of it. And one of the side effects that we found with it that we didn't originally intend is it actually can act as a cushion. Because if you have one way down at a distance and you jump into it, you're basically frozen in time as soon as you drop into it. So you could be leaping to your death, land in this deadlock, and you're perfectly safe. You pick up the deadlock and you're on your way. I'm John Zook from Raven Software, creative director on Singularity. You can expect to see Singularity in 2009 on the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and PC.
Alright, it's the last round. Cos is on 1, Alternative Controllers is on 1.
Okay,
it's up
sticks.
to Dan. Dan, take it away on guitar.
Come on, guitar.
Ready to lose, beat a man.
Alright, it's time for the last round. It looks like Cos is stuck with Blanco while Dan's giving Ryu a go on the Guitar Hero controller. Oh, Cos starts smashing the buttons. Dan's using the toggle as a D-pad. It's going not well so far for Dan. Looks like he's got one hit in, but Cos is relentless with his electricity. Dan's doing his best to avoid getting hit, but it doesn't look like he's doing well. Cos is trying some combos right now, and Dan's still on trying with the guitar, and I think it's over. There he goes. It's over. And Cos is triumphed again over the guitar.
Still a victory, dude. Better than a hollow loss.
Okay, almost at the end of the show now, and as we always do, we check in with Cause to find out the massive, massive prizes you can win just by being a GameSpot AU reader. Cause, can you take us through it?
My pleasure. We're giving away a copy of Empire Total War as well as an Intel i7 processor to the major winner of that, as well as 5 runners-up will get a copy of the game. I think it's Special Forces Edition. We're also giving away a copy of Resident Evil 5 thanks to the Ozspot, and a Watchmen prize pack. They all close next week, so get in quick.
Actually, Cause, let me correct you. I think it's our pleasure. But before we go on, how can they actually find this? Where on the site can they find these comps?
All you got to do is go to www.gamespot.com.au/comps and you can enter there.
And finally, we're going to look at this week's new releases. A couple of major ones again this week, mate.
Yeah, we do. It's been a big couple of weeks and it just keeps on continuing. Headlining this week, we've got Empire Total War for PC, AC/DC Rock Band Track Pack for Wii, Littlest Pet Shop Spring for the Nintendo DS, SpongeBob SquarePants Frantic Fry Cook for the Nintendo DS, Castlevania Order of the Ecclesia for the Nintendo DS, Race Pro on 360, Rapala's Fishing Frenzy for the PlayStation 3 and 360, and The Chase, Felix Meets Felicity for the Nintendo DS.
Thanks for that, Cause. That is it for this week's show. Hope you guys enjoyed all the weird Street Fighter stuff, and I hope it's taught you that you can use a guitar or a drum kit controller.
It's a perfectly legitimate way to play.
You probably won't win, but you might as well give it a go, right? Okay, that's it for this week's show. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week.
See
Bye
ya.
now.